I'm Bob Forrest, and this is Rehab Now. And my guest today is Rogg, a hero of mine, guy who changed the face of treatment in America. And that's why I really wanted to meet with you, because I knew you were around before it got changed, because you're the one that changed it. And I love you, and I look up to you, and thanks for being the first guest here.
You're welcome.
So we were talking a little beforehand. I'm trying to educate the public on what treatment is, right? And because I was in treatment when people like you were running it, and it was not the treatment that is now.
Mm-hmm.
And the treatment that was then was effective, maybe not for abstinence, but effective in explaining, educating, being very blunt about things, and you got directed, if you wanted to solve this problem. And the state of rehab in America is under attack. People say it doesn't work, it's ineffective. Harm replacement is coming, harm reduction, replacement therapy, medically managed care is coming like a steamroller. It's going to roll over this magical world that I call rehab. I've lived in it since 1988. And you were further back than that. And where was so you started Promises.
Correct, right.
In what year?
1988.
88?
Yeah, it started as a sober living.
And how'd you get clients? Pay $8,500 a head for them?
No. No, we just kind of networked through the community, through the professional community. Doctors, therapists, other treatment centers for aftercare. People would come in. After they left the hospital program, they would come to our program.
And what were you modeling after? What treatments had you been in, or did you know about?
It was social model treatment,
Yeah.
where, like you said, a community of sober people. They didn't necessarily run the place, but it was the feeling of we're in this together, kind of.
When I went to treatment in '88, I didn't realize till decades later, there was no one in charge of our unit. It was patient managed. There was 20 guys, we lived in a pod, and the senior member, there was a senior and a lieutenant, and there was no staff on the unit, and everything was clean, and everyone had their assignments, right? It was like the military. So how did it evolve into being Promises Treatment Center? You got the house across the street, right?
Right. We saw the need for residential treatment as opposed to hospital treatment.
Right.
Up until that point, most of the treatment was being, taken care of in hospital-based programs.
30 days.
30 days or 28 days for $40,000 some odd dollars, and we saw a way of reducing that price dramatically and extending the amount of time that the residents could spend in a therapeutic environment. And
Like 90 days for
90
40
days.
grand.
No, for $5,000.
For 90 days?
Yeah, exactly. That was our price in the beginning.
Wow.
So the insurance companies came running towards us.
I like how you said in the beginning.
Yeah, they wanted, they sensed that this worked, and they also sensed that they could save a lot of money doing it this way.
And the insurance companies used to come out and meet with the staff and the patients?
Exactly. Right.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Now it's just a war.
Yeah. No, the case managers knew our staff, they knew the patient, and they worked together as a team to create the most effective plan for each person.
And how much psychotherapy was involved in it?
Yeah, a little.
A little.
Yeah.
But trauma?
Trauma wasn't really dealt with the way it is now. But, everything kind of went through the 12-step filter. The time constraint now is so tight that they have to face everything. They try and squeeze everything into the first week or 2 weeks, and it becomes kind of muddled. And that's why we thought having a 90-day program would be more beneficial. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, the patient and the family doesn't want to commit for 90 days. So we sold it as a 30-day program with the option of another month or 2 months of sober living.
Right.
In the beginning, the insurance company didn't even know how to code for sober living. They didn't know what it was. They had no idea how to put it into their computer
It wasn't
system.
called outpatient?
No, because you were living somewhere. It was,
And they didn't say you have to do this, you have to do that. They trusted the treatment center to do the right thing, to be effective in creating change in an addict's life. And so they paid you a per day rate, probably?
yeah, they did. And the other part that was very important was the family program.
How
Well,
can you have a family group with clients that are coming, you know, from
well,
all
hopefully
over the
if they
place?
have the means, they'll fly out here, like the
No,
other
these are
large
working
ones.
class people,
Right,
Richard.
they don't.
You know
they
that.
don't. No, I know they don't.
With Obamacare and the Parity Act, it's working class people.
Well, it's it's just more challenging.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. I think I know enough of what you, Harold Owens, Marlene, all the people that tried to help me or that were running things in the 80s and 90s. I know enough of that, and then I worked in it from the 90s and 2000s until now, and it's not working. It's broken. And so what I'm trying to figure out is go to the people who invented this and say, what is it that you see that you don't like about treatment? I know that you've told me several times you don't like the phones.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because that's living outside the facility, is that your argument?
Oh, you mean them having cell phones on
in the
premises?
rehab.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's all of that now. I mean, that's just a fact of life that wasn't there
That's
in the
what
80s.
I think. I think phones are more, to a 22-year-old, a phone is more than just calling her a drug dealer like when we were 22.
Yeah, it's part of their life. And
But it also has them living outside the facility and not being present
Right.
in the therapeutic community that they're in. But so much nowadays is one-on-one. I never thought that one-on-ones helped addicts that much.
it's just it's become selling points rather than effective treatment. We never. I mean, one-on-one is good, but that's not what's going to get you sober.
Yeah.
I mean, private rooms are nice, but sharing a room is much more therapeutic. And
You know what
doing
I
chores
noticed?
is very therapeutic, and yet there's concierge service everywhere now.
I know, well,
And you can't
who
sell your...
invented the concierge service?
Well, not like that. Not like that. We had people flying in on private jets doing the kitchen service. I mean, these people were working at
I
Promise.
know, because it was a part of the milieu. I worked, Eric Clapton worked, everybody that went to Hazelden worked,
Yeah.
right? It was part of it. You didn't want to be an asshole and not have a job. You know what I mean? That world doesn't exist anymore. Only assholes have jobs.
Well, other
You know what I
problem-
mean? It's switched in the mentality of millennials. You understand? When I was a pretty successful musician when I went to Hazelden the first time. I was full of myself. I was, an asshole. But as soon as I saw that everybody had a job, I didn't want to be known as the guy that doesn't do his job. That was a mentality of baby boomers and Gen Xers that is not of millennials.
Oh, you mean at the treatment center?
Yeah.
The chores?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like, there were no exceptions at Hazelden for rock stars or
Exactly.
executives.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah.
Same at Promises.
So somehow it changed and it
Yeah.
switched. And nobody has chores now. I don't know. I don't know if you go to treatment these days. Nobody even makes their bed. Drug treatment has changed. The attitude.
Do you think
of
it's more
the client.
as effective, or do you think it's less effective?
I think it's less effective because I think it's gotten away from its basic point of community containment accountability. Community containment accountability. There is no community, there is no containment, and there's no accountability. There's no containment because the doctors bring in the drugs right into the rehab center, Suboxone, benzos, right? Adderall. You can go to a rehab on heroin, come out on 2 different addictive drugs. That's rehab in the 21st century. So, and it's very ineffective. And so I want to go back and say, hey, how do we get back to the basics? What do the people who are crucial in treatment in America, what do they think needs to happen? What do they think needs to be? Right?
I think it's a pendulum. I've always noticed
you
the
told
pendulum.
me that
yeah.
upstairs 2
Yeah,
years ago.
Yeah, it swings back and forth. And
What if it swings out and everybody's on methadone for the rest of their lives?
Well, that's how it was in the 70s.
Was it?
Everybody was on methadone.
Really?
Yeah. And then, people realized how addictive it was and hard
Oh,
to get
maybe
off
they're
of.
going to realize how bad Suboxone is.
Yeah,
Trying to get
Suboxone.
off of it?
I've gotten to the point where there's some people where I would recommend a drug like that.
Yeah, me
people
too.
who've been relapsing 30 years.
Yeah.
And just can't.
But not 20-year-old kids.
No.
So let's get to it. So you had this very successful treatment. I remember once I got sober, I was putting people in there. You had a great staff. You had Howard, Patricia, right? And it was so effective. Anybody that left Las Encinas, Drew or Barry, would say, send them to Promises, right? Because that was extended care. Because we only did, like you said, the 30-day treatment.
Right.
They need extended care. So ideally, what people were doing in the early 90s to new millennium is 30 days in Las Encinas, or 30 days in Exodus, or 30 days in Dr. Takamini's place in Santa Monica.
St. John's, yeah.
30 days inpatient in a hospital, and then go for the 90 days to Promises if you really wanted to get sober.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
What happened? How did it end up in Malibu?
How did the program end up in Malibu?
How did you end up?
It became obvious to me that some people wanted to go to a nicer physical kind of place. And
Did you struggle with that decision?
no. We needed more room anyway, and I was looking for other facilities on the west side.
Yeah.
And then somebody suggested I go up to Big Rock in Malibu, and quite honestly, the house prices were a lot less expensive up there.
Yeah.
So it made a lot of sense to get that place. And then working with, Bob Timmons and all these other people, started putting celebrities up there, and then it just kind of took off in that direction. It wasn't something I was consciously trying to create.
You created something there that has spread across the United States, to Florida, to New York City. I remember first time a friend of mine, Joe, had sober living in New York City, 20 grand a month for sober living. I was like, what? Who would fucking go there?
Yeah.
But that whole phenomenon.
Is that in the Hamptons?
No, it's in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Williamsburg.
Wow.
Right? But that whole phenomenon came from Promises Malibu.
Mm-hmm.
From the success of Promises Malibu comes Passages, comes concierge service. And the reason I know this is because we started, Dr. Drew's a very successful addiction specialist and addictionologist, and we had always had a waiting list at Las Encinas. I started there in 2003. About 2005, we didn't have a waiting list anymore, and our census was dwindling. And we kept hearing from marketing, like, you got to get more like Malibu. You got to get more like Malibu. We got to redo the rooms. That now we have to get into this, thread count.
Yeah.
Were you a part of thread count?
No. We had, my wife was doing that, and other people.
Was it a selling point at a certain point?
Thread
of
count?
Promises? Just the gourmet
Ambiance?
food and the.
Yeah,
and
definitely. But the
You never
people.
feel guilty about that?
No, because the people that came there, it was cabin life to them. They came from 50,000 square foot homes on private jets, and coming up there was just, it was a come down for them, but it was accessible as opposed to it was like going from a Marriott to a Peninsula or Four Seasons or something like that.
So. But then that clientele, that's all well and fine if you have 12 beds. But then when you go to 36 beds, you're not getting billionaires every bed, right?
You're not getting, no, you're not.
No, so then
you're
it
getting
becomes,
wannabes.
So yeah, and then it's like the best they've ever lived in their life. And I think
For
that's
some
where
people,
Malibu
for
is
some
now.
people.
Malibu treatment centers, that's the best those people are ever going to live in their lives while they were in rehab.
You think so?
For sure. They're coming from working class backgrounds in Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Staying in Malibu?
And staying in Malibu rehab centers on their insurance.
Some of them are, yeah. Yeah, we never took insurance in Malibu.
Oh, you didn't?
Never took insurance.
Oh.
Now they do. Now everybody does. But we never, and I stopped taking insurance in West LA at the same time.